Hey guys, really sorry I couldn't be in class today. Instead of being in class, I'm going to have to teach you via video, which is something that, from the looks of things, I'm going to have to do a bit more often in coming up. Enjoy the view of my bedroom. Anyway, let's jump straight back into where we left off. All right. So last lesson, I started talking about body systems, and I started talking specifically about the digestive system. So if you guys can get out your notes, this is where we left off. We started looking at the small intestines, and the small intestines, remember, is broken up into two sections: the duodenum and the ileum. They're the two main sections we're going to focus on anyway. The ileum is the part of the small intestine which absorbs nutrients. And last time I was here, I started talking about how villi, these little hairs on the wall of the small intestine, helps absorb nutrients because it increases the surface area of the ileum. Now, that sounds a little confusing, so to better explain that, I've got a little model. Okay, so remember, the surface or the sides of the small intestine are not flat, and they're not flat because of all the villi, all right? So the sides of the small intestine could look like that, but instead they don't. They look like this, and that's all the little villi there. And these villi serve the purpose of increasing surface area. So I've got a model here. I've got one sticky note, which is just flat. That's not what a small intestine's like. That's just a model. And this is a model of a couple of sticky notes put together, and it's all bumpy. So this is a more closer to what the small intestine's like, except it's not long flat bits. It's the point is there's more surface area in this one. Even though these are both roughly the same width, this one has more surface area. So if I poured a little bit of rice on this plate, and I spread out the rice, making sure every grain of rice touches the surface, and then I poured some rice on this one, there's a lot more area for the rice to attach itself to the surface in this one than there is for this one. So there's lots. That's the purpose of increased surface area. It's to increase the amount that something can get sucked up. So if this was the side of the small intestines, a lot more rice can get sucked up because it's all attached to this side of all the rice here is attached to the sides of the walls. So what I've got in front of me, is a measurement of how much rice was actually collected on each of the surfaces. So you can see in this flat surface, it couldn't actually collect much rice, but in this surface, more rice was able to be attached to the sides of the sticky note because there was more surface area for it to attach to. And there's like 5 or 6 times the amount of rice as there is here. So think about that in terms of our small intestines. If our small intestine looks like that, that's the amount of rice, well, not just rice, nutrients, that's the amount of nutrients that our small intestines would be able to suck up. But if it looked more like that, then we'd get that much more nutrients, okay? So that's the purpose of the villi. That's the purpose of having higher surface area. You get to absorb way more nutrients. Okay. Carry on now that I've got rice everywhere. So the small intestine is used for sucking up nutrients. We got 3 main types of nutrients here that it can suck up. We got fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. In the next lesson, you're going to do a prac, not run by me, run by someone else. You're going to do a prac that looks more at types of fats and how well the small intestine would be able to suck up different types of fats, specifically how well it can suck up fats and oils. But yeah, these are our 3 main types of nutrients. I'll look into them a little bit more here. Yeah, so carbohydrates and fats and proteins, yeah, I've got here what elements they're composed of. They're basically all made of the same stuff. They're just made in different ways. Carbohydrates and fats are used as sources of energy. So fats are a more long-term source. Fats get stored, and fats are really good for insulation because, well, fat helps you make you fat. Proteins, on the other hand, are good for growth and tissue repair. You want lots of protein if you want to help build up your muscles or get your muscles stronger. So yeah, they're the three main types of nutrients, and they're all sucked up in the small intestine. Nowhere else. It's not in the stomach, not in the duodenum, not in the large intestine, only in the ileum in the small intestine. All right, so that moves us on to the large intestine. Food has passed through here. All the nutrients are sucked out. Now it's get to the large intestine where water is sucked up. All right, that's the main purpose of the large intestine. Here you have water that's sucked up all the way until we get a stool or feces left behind. And the feces is excreted out of the anus. So here's an example of feces. This shows exactly what's left in our feces. We got a bit of undigested food left in the feces. So some food just can't get mushed down in the stomach or in the small intestine or anything. We got some minerals and salts and gut lining and some bacteria. There's a lot of bacteria that live in our intestines, especially the large intestine, to help break down the food even more. And also, we've just got a lot of leftover water. The large intestine doesn't have that increased surface area like the small intestine does. So it can't suck up all the water possible. But it sucks up as much as we need, and that's all that gets left behind. Our feces is 60% water. That's actually, you might think that that's a lot, but when you think about how soft your feces are, it can only be soft if there's a lot of water in it. So that wraps up the digestive system. The last thing I want to briefly talk about are digestive disorders. Here are four main ones that I want you guys to remember. The first one is vomiting. So remember, a disorder is just anything that doesn't happen like it's meant to. Vomiting is a disorder, but it's a disorder that our body actually wants to happen. So vomiting occurs when the stomach receives some sort of food that it doesn't want to digest, or when the brain recognizes something as something it doesn't want to digest. So vomiting is a reaction where the stomach will open up the sphincter and try and regurgitate that food right back out. The muscles will push it right back out, which is really hard to do because the esophagus works to push food down. So that's why it feels so yuck when you actually vomit. Your stomach is really pushing all that out. Diarrhea, that's when your large intestine is not doing its job of sucking up its water. That can be because it's infected. There could be too much bacteria in the large intestine, and that's the main cause. It's just when there's no water absorption. Heartburn, unlike what it says, unlike the title, has actually nothing to do with your heart. Heartburn is when you get a lot of pressure in your esophagus. So that happens when your stomach receives food that it doesn't like, or maybe when the sphincter isn't working well. There can be a lot of different disorders and diseases that can mean your sphincter doesn't work well. But yeah, when your heart, when that happens, your stomach, the sphincter doesn't close properly, and so therefore the stomach releases stomach acids back into the esophagus, and your esophagus is actually burning away. So it should be called esophagus burn, but instead it's called heartburn. And the last one is appendicitis. The appendix is this little guy. You probably heard of it. It's a little, it's a little weird organ that's just tagged on the end or the start of the large intestines. In humans, it doesn't really, we don't know for sure what purpose the appendix even serves. Some people say that it serves the purpose of storing good bacteria. But nevertheless, the appendix can become inflamed, and then it can actually rupture, which can cause lots of infections within the body. So when that happens, you get appendicitis and you need to just get that appendix out of there. Because the appendix doesn't really serve any major purpose, from what we found, it's totally fine to just remove the appendix. Anyway, so that covers digestion. Like I said, in this next period, you're going to be doing a prac, but for this period, I'm going to set some style questions and some work for you guys to do. All right, best of luck, guys.